Charles Lawson Jr. served in the U.S. Army during World War II. As a member of the 774th Tank Battalion, Charles was wounded in action in Germany on December 19, 1944, thus earning the Purple Heart Medal. Okay, what is your name?
Charles Madison Lawson, Jr.
And where are you from?
Born in Lenore City.
Okay. And
Knoxville, close to Knoxville.
Where did you go to high school?
In Knoxville, but I can't remember the school. But it was out next to the Cecil Street area in Knoxville.
Okay. So after high school, had you already finished high school when Pearl Harbor was attacked?
I just finished up high school that year.
Okay.
And that's when I was pulled into the Army.
And tell me about how you entered the Army.
They come and got me to sign up, and when I went in, they wanted to know what I wanted to be, and I told them that I wanted to be in a tank cavalry.
Okay.
And whenever they got me down there, we were down there close to southern Knoxville, down this side of it, and it was sent into Louisiana. I mean to Atlanta.
Okay.
To go into the one of the branches of the service there. And that's where I went in the first time.
And then once you were signed up, where was your first? Where did you go after that?
I forget the camp.
Was it Fort Knox?
Yeah, Fort Knox.
Okay.
We went up to that. Fort Knox was mostly educational, they called it, for the Army. Different things that they could learn to do their paperwork better. Mm-hmm. But we finally went out. I went out, and they trained me for the tank corps. And that's where I went in at, is down in Georgia, at Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay. So the war was going on, and you're in the tank corps, and then how did you get the news that you would be heading over to Europe?
Well, we got that. They decided that we was going to go into Europe to help them out. So we got put into our armored division was under command of Colonel Patton.
Okay.
At that time. But before the war really got started, he was made general. And he was our commanding officer just about all the way down. He was my commanding officer when we first went into the tanks.
Did you ever get to talk with General Patton?
Oh yes, I got to. Whenever I was first started going down, we was down there at Fort Benning, Georgia, and we decided that he could be chauffeured around, and they put me in as one of his chauffeurs. And whenever I got in there, I was taken over to one day and talked to him a little bit, and we went out down to on maneuvers there in Georgia, and we was going to go. And he wanted to know if I wanted to go one way or the other, and I told him, I said, you send it the way you want to go. And whenever I got in there, we was going down the road on I was at that time.
What kind of vehicle were you in as a chauffeur?
At that time, I just fixed to tell you.
Okay.
They put me onto an old Indian motorcycle, and when we had the sidecar on it, and it was for one man to sit in that sidecar, and me on the motorcycle. And we was going down through there, and he got in there and wanted to go down to the front of the convoy. He was out there on maneuvers like, and he went down. I got him on there, and we was going down through there, going on, and we got about 3 or 4 miles down the road, and we had to slow down, but we, instead of getting rounded up, we had a wreck, went off into the ditch, hit a big rock in the road. That the tank had just missed it, and our big truck had, and we got through there then, but we had he had to be taken care of then, because his outfit was supposed to be going on down the road, but he wanted for me to go on down with him. But I got him out. They got him. He said would get me out of the ditch by the people coming by and getting it. But then whenever they got ready to get me out of the ditch with the motorcycle, I told him I'd see him down to the headquarters. So I went down to him, and he said, "You still all right?" I said, "Yes." But he says, but we got the motorcycle out, and he says, "I'm not riding another one of those things," because he had already rode one, and it threw him out in the middle of the desert like on that trip that time. But that was the last time I got a chance to chauffeur him. But he was still in charge of me as a general.
Okay.
He was not hurt in that wreck. He just crawled out and flagged the truck down, another truck down, and got a ride on into the headquarters. And they got me back down there after I got my motorcycle straightened out. And he said, "You're doing all right." And, but he said, "I'm not riding another one of those things." And he never did ride another motorcycle. He put it away.
So how did you get to Europe? Did they put you on a ship?
Yeah, they put us on a ship, but they put it up in down south there, and we had to come up the coast over there to around in New York.
Okay.
And when we left there, we left New York and went straight over to I forget the city it was, but anyway, it was a big city that was in lower parts of Britain.
Okay.
And then also it was close to where the war was going to be taken off.
Do you remember what year that was when you landed?
Oh, goodness.
That's okay.
I can't remember just the date, but it was in early fall. Well, in the summertime, really it was. We just came in there mostly and our unit started getting together, getting ready to head overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went into the war. Went in from England there. We was there from the time we went over until they sent us over got us over into France. But they put us in close to the all white fence and all. But anyway, it was where they decided that they're going to go in to France and start filling it out.
The invasion?
Huh?
Was it the invasion?
Yeah.
Okay. Normandy?
Yeah. When we got there, when we was in the invasion, they had 2 or 3 different ways to go in. And they had Colonel Patton's unit, he was a general then when we were going into the war. And he was there to be the leader of us, and we were supposed to go into France and get lined up and go out to different places in the war.
What kind of tank were you assigned to?
I remember it was a little, I forget the name, what image it was built by, but it was a 4-passenger tank. It was what they called a light tank.
Oh.
And and that was about the biggest thing at the time. They was building the bigger ones, but that we had got into was that one on, it's called Sherman, I believe it was.
Okay. What was it like inside the tank?
Well, it's just like in this hot weather, it's just like enough of it. But you had, the tank had a turret where the gun was, the big gun was on top. And that turret would turn to wherever you wanted it to go. You did it by hand to turn it around but you just cracked a little rocket there, and it turned the tank, right, the top of the tank around to different angles to go out and through there. But then later they went to automatic turning. You just push a button and the driver, the gunner could get his turret and all lined up with the tanks and things that he wanted to get knocked out down there.
Mm-hmm. So once you were in the tank and you arrived in France, did you see a lot of action in combat?
Yes, I went in, I think they said D+4.
Okay.
And our outfit did. And we had stayed in there then until we came out. But when we went into the war there at first, they said that we would be able to get out and go. But they didn't realize that we would be tied up a lot of times in the tank by being hit on the outside and then couldn't open the doors or something like that. Because at times the tanks got hit and it closed, it put a piece of metal over it, took a piece of metal off of one side and put it on over the door, and it hung and it wouldn't go up, the door wouldn't open up. If we wanted out of there, we'd have to go down through the the driver's side or the assistant driver's side, going out the front of the tank and come up like that. But and those tanks had 3 men in the turret. There's the tank commander, the gunner, and the loader. And I was the loader.
And what was your job like as a loader?
I would pick up the big shells and go up to get over to the gun, shove it into the gun like that. And that was the shell was about, well, with the point on it and everything, it was about 3.5, 4 feet long. I just put it in the gun, shove it up, and when it went in there all the way, the gun closed down at the back and is ready to be fired. And whenever they got through, we fired that shell would come out of that gun, land on the floor of the tank, and we'd have to kick them kind of over out of the way to keep them from burning us when it's hot. And we couldn't even pick them up by our hands or anything until later. We'd have to have several of those shells on the tank, on the tank floor, on the turret floor. It wasn't down into the bottom of the tank or anything like that, just in the round where the turret was, it turned around. The gun was moved around in a turret, they called it.
Oh yeah, we finally got bigger tanks too.
Did the Germans have big tanks?
They had pretty good sized tanks, but most of them were
They were a lot different from ours. They seemed to be. They didn't maneuver as well as ours at times. Whether it's just them we couldn't handle them or what. But we wound up having the big battle in the Battle of the Bulge there. And that was where we had most of our problems, but most of them turned out to be good. That's where we had our the fight and all. They considered it the Battle of the Bulge, and there were several people in that one right there that was hurt in a shell. In the tank, I got little damage did to my hands and from a shell. It was hot, but anyway, I was outside of the tank when one day they started firing again on us. I had to run and grab a place to get into so that shell wouldn't hit me. And, we didn't have too much of that because we just didn't stay out of the tank much until the war was about ready to be ended.
And that's how you got your Purple Heart, right?
Yeah. And when I got to Purple Heart was from the one where we had we were down in the tank, and they had me trapped into the turret, and a shell landed close to the turret there. But I was lucky that it didn't tear up the turret or the casing there. But it's a piece of shell. We was going on down then later on, and we was going down there to fight another battle, and shells started coming in on us there, and we kept firing a little bit. But whenever we got down there, then we got stopped, and there's some indirect fire came in from the Germans and from us, and it was from the Germans there was a big shell come in and burst, and shrapnel came over our tank, and I was out of the top of the tank, sticking out of the top of the tank, and I had this hand laying on the top of the tank there, and a big piece of shrapnel off of an indirect fire that hit close to the tank from the ground. It exploded, and that piece of shrapnel hit my hand right on top of it, flat. But it didn't. You said, well, what did it do to it? It busted it open from here on the inside here against my tank, like that down there, and it just busted it here. Didn't cut it off or anything. And that was the worst bandage, worst hurt I got into every day. When I went out got out of there, they took me over there to that place, the hospital there, got me, the aid station, got me bandaged up, said, do you want to go on back to the headquarters? And I said, no, I want to stay at my tank. And I did. I kept loading the gun with one hand. I put it up here like that or something and slide it over the top of my arm into the tank gun, into the gun. And then I'd back out of the way and let them fire it and go on. That was the biggest thing, that really made anything to me seem like anything much good. But I didn't know that I might get hit like that. But I kept loading guns with the gun with one hand, one arm. But I just put it over the top of here and slide it in the gun. Or get it up to where I can get it into the gun, and I'd shove it down into the gun, and that'd fire it. And that's how I wound up with that wound in better shape than most of them.
So, after the Battle of the Bulge, and y'all continued to fight, did you fight, were you with the tank throughout the war, to the end of the war?
Yeah.
Okay.
Until we started going on towards Germany. We got close to their capital, and we finally started to win in the war then, and that's when it happened that we settled everything right there, and we stopped our fight, went on with we didn't go anything out of France there to take over, because we was brought in to get France free. And when we got them free, we stayed pretty well on our side, but we didn't go into any battles hardly in Germany. When we got there close to Germany, we seen the big building. I forget now what it was, but it was a big building and all, and we knew that was Germany. Is the German pieces, and we didn't fire too much into Germany. we wanted them to have the chance to, the ones that the Germans fought from the other side. They wanted to get one that was in it, was not really in their country, but multiplying it, you know, running it. But they want to get rid of them. And so we let them sit there, and we sat there and let them do that. We didn't go any further into Germany there. We just went into that part, and then later on, we did start going around the city of Germany. What was the name of it? This old brain kind of quit now. It's better on that.
Well, that's okay. So the war was wrapping up. And how did y'all feel? I mean, how did...
Well, I never feel real good because they were still firing at us at times. Even though the war had ended, there'd be some guys that was there that wanted to cause problems. And that's the way the Germans were. They wanted to cause problems everywhere they went. I think that's the biggest reason that they lost the war. If they'd have been decent about their way of doing things, I think they would have been able to go ahead and do what they wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. So how did your unit get back to the United States?
They rode us back up into France there and got us close to the channel, and they had boats come in and take us from France back over into England there, where they started having big ships come in, and also few airships, but they didn't have too many airships at that time that could, you know, do much for us getting our tanks out of there. We was leaving, we left most of the tanks over there at the time in Germany, in France, and had it all the time, just about it. But when we got over into England there, they bandaged us up, told us to head for home. We did. We went. They sent us further down into England there, towards where some of the ships were ready to take off with us. We loaded onto the ships because we didn't have enough airplanes to, you know, do any good at that time. Because they had to have aircraft in the army, even that they couldn't use it to take anybody home. So they loaded us on ships that would take us back to England. I mean, back to our own countries, then let us out. But we left it. When I left there, I got out of the way from Germany, and I was glad of it because it was just a pitiful thing that everybody was going through. It didn't seem to hurt our tank corps out any much, any. Little things that come up, you know, it always hurts. Because there'd be one of our good friends be killed or something like that. But it wasn't in the tank corps, in my tank company. I think we had about 10 deaths in there because it was, like I said, when we got on down into there, we was getting into war and where it was hard to hit back there. And it protected us more for then. That's why I think that's the biggest thing we did. We just fought that Battle of the Bulge, and that's where it all ended, really. That Battle of the Bulge. It was a lot of stuff come out of there that, well, what we called it was smoking. Because it's powder in the shell casing and all, and the tank is loaded with powder, you know, just in the air. It was awful smelling. And we were lucky we come out of there without having to worry too much about being able to go and come where we want to do.
So when you got back home to the United States, what was your reception like? Was your mom glad to see you?
Yes, but when we first got back into the country, we had to go to camp, you know, and they didn't turn us loose right at the reception area where they was going to let it, you know, where we was landing at, where we were coming in on the ship, and we'd just go in there, and then we'd go into camp, and we'd wait a while, a little bit, to get kind of level off to what we was trying to forget in the Army, because we'd had a rough time of it and all, and that kept our families pretty well quieting down until we got ready to come home. And they started to send us a few at a time out of the regiment to our homes, and most of us, whenever I got mine, I was pretty close to the end of my time to quit. I went in for 3 years, and I was almost out of that time whenever we went to the war. After the war, came over here, came back to the United States, and started getting into different outfits and going home. That was the best way we could do it. We just went home.
And how did you feel as a veteran of World War II at that time? You know, you fought hard and went through a lot of...
Yeah, I just kept thanking the good Lord for getting me through different things. Getting me through maybe a rough time of it, where the tank was knocked out and we had to repair the track or something like that. That was something that we had to do. We had maintenance men, but a lot of times the maintenance men couldn't even get close to us. So we'd find us one of our connection joints to get our track back together and fix it. We put it back on the track and get it up there, and then we'd have it close enough that we could squeeze it together with another ointment or squeeze track to get it back into shape. So we could get it in there, and then we'd put our bolts back in there and tighten them up. We'd get our track back together, and we was ready to go. That's the way it was rolled. It was in the tank track. was in what we call pallets, but they were solid rubber and steel, and that's where, and their tracks was made like this to make it grip, you know, let it run over, and but that would keep it going.
So today how old are you today?
93.
Okay.
A little over 93. That was 93, first day of March.
And what is it like today, being a World War II veteran? Do you get a lot of thank yous? And
Oh yes, I have a lot of people that just holler at me and says thank you. You know, I just wear this hat and don't wear too many other things to let them know that I was in the Army. But
now, is that your original hat that you had back during service?
it was similar to them, but it wasn't. It's just not exactly. This was more or less towards the end of the war. They started out with we started out with a hat that was not. We didn't have the caps at the time. You mostly had hats then, except in the tank. When we were riding in the tank, we had some of these are similar to this, but they wasn't decorated and all. But then they started allowing us to put our symbols on it and everything, and that helped us out. But that was the biggest thing. We got changed. We went from the I called them cowboy hats. When we first went in, they were big hats, big protection from the sun and all, with the high beard and like, and we had that way. We had to do something, so they decided they'd quit getting the hats for us, and they would get us this cap like this, and we started wearing plastic helmets too. They were the ones that came out from inside of the tanks that we had. I mean, the ones that we had in the Army in the war. And they started making them different. That's the way we wound up being served with that helmet thing, in a way, to make it for our, because our tank was about the same as it was when they started the war.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that you would like to tell us about your service that we didn't get to talk about?
I just, one thing that I liked about it was that General Patton was one of the best men that I ever met. He was done everything he could do for anybody that was in service. He waited on them and all, but he didn't have to do all that either. He did it because he was proud of them and what they did. But his work was keeping the guys going, and that was his biggest thing. I think he enjoyed it very much, but I know that when we got banged up there for a while, he didn't like it too much then, but he finally seen that we had about enough of help to get us through, and we got through.
Well, good.
And I told him one day that the good Lord's what done it for us. And he says, "Thank you, Charlie, that's it." He said, "I knew that that was what we had to have, is God's help." And that's the way it ended up there. But most of us got scattered out then, you know. Got out, or had to get out. We got out of service there and all after the war was over with. When I came back, I was down there in Camp Polk, Louisiana for quite a while. But I come out of service there. But I didn't have full time to, you know, for service. I didn't go enough to make a retirement, but I was in there long enough to have the war paid, payments and everything for me.
Well, we appreciate you doing this interview today, and thank you for your service, and we're really proud of you.
I'm proud of you fellas here, letting us do what we can to keep the Army in shape. I think that if we didn't give a little big broad just to help them from out here, they'd be in trouble. Because we need the Lord following us and helping us get them boys all safe and sound.
That's right. Well, thank you, Charles.
Yeah.